I'm Jonna McKinnon. I'm the current chairman of the Clay County School Board. I'd like to make a prepared statement, and printed copies of this statement will be provided to you as well. As many of you know, I called a special meeting of the Clay County School Board to review issues raised in a letter that was sent by a district employee to the board on August 4th to determine further action. However, after review of the board policy and with guidance of the board's attorney, it has become clear that it would violate board policy to review these allegations in a public meeting, since included within this letter are allegations made against specific district employees identified by name or title. Specifically, Section 2.17.A.4 of Board Policy reveals the following. Investigations of complaints against employees shall be the responsibility of the superintendent of schools. Such investigations shall be coordinated by the Human Resources Division. This section goes on to state that all material and evidence pertaining to the investigations is confidential until charges are filed or the investigation is completed with a finding of no cause. Violations of this policy have resulted in procedural due process concerns for a number of employees who may have been personally or professionally injured by the inappropriate release of allegations to the local media. In observance of this policy, I am canceling tonight's meeting and directing the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources to conduct an investigation into both the allegations contained within this letter specific to employees, as well as the potential violation of board policy after these allegations have been made public. Further, because the school board members and superintendent are elected constitutional officers, I have been advised by legal counsel that the district does not have the authority to investigate their conduct. According to Florida law, any person wishing to initiate an investigation into the conduct of elected officials must make a sworn complaint with the Commission on Ethics. Until this investigation has reached its end, the agenda item for the August 18th meeting on this matter cannot be discussed at a public meeting without further violating board policy. I am therefore directing the board secretary to remove it from the agenda. At the conclusion of the investigation, the results, to include any potential violations of board policy, will be presented to the board. The allegations brought in this letter have been deeply troubling to many in our community, and I know that we all look forward to determining the facts in this case. I want to thank the Human Resources Division in advance for their work and ask your prayers and support for the Clay County School staff, teachers, and students as we begin the new school year next week. Thank you all for your time today, and to preserve the integrity of the district's investigation, I will not be commenting any further on this matter or taking questions at this time.
Well, the question actually needs to be asked because as the chairman, you're not allowed to direct anyone on the staff to do anything.
Well, board policy is specific, and board policy was adopted before this board came and was even elected. And board policy is there to protect the employees. And what's happened here is a bloodlust to go after the superintendent. Innocent people who have due process rights have been injured. They are the rights that we're trying to protect right now. Policy procedure has been set by the board prior to this administration, and we're going to follow that policy and procedure.
But you didn't answer the question. The chair does not have the authority to order any staff person to do anything.
No, the chair does not, but the chair has the ability to say, follow policy and procedure previously set by the other administrations. That's in place, so follow the policies and procedures.
So you're saying that whoever wrote this needs to file a formal complaint with you all so that you all can go through the process of addressing it?
When the complaint is received, the proper channels would have been under policy procedure to send it to the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources to begin the investigation. And that's what we're doing right now.
Don't you think it would be best just to remove all perception of impropriety, to call for an external outside investigation right now. That way it will remove any sort of perception that there's a cover-up or someone's trying to do something
Well,
wrong.
let me ask you this.
Mr. Kennedy.
No, let me ask you this, okay? Why do you think the Ethics Commission doesn't release results until after the investigation is completed? Seriously. And the policy reason why is anybody can make any allegations. Simply because you make allegations doesn't mean it's true. And what's supposed to happen, and the reason why the Ethics Division does what it does and doesn't make the allegations public until the investigation is completed, is because people can use exactly this as a smear campaign. And you're not supposed to do that. Everybody has procedural due process rights. And as much as Mr. Van Zandt wants to clear his name, having a hearing in public without letting the individual teachers that belong to the union, staff members, and administrators, giving them the opportunity of procedural due process to clear their name first. Well, that needs to happen before we sit there and we smear everybody's name through public. Because what's happened here is in a rush to go after Mr. Van Zandt, numerous people have been injured by this, and injured significantly. And those people have procedural due process rights. And if the board does not take the steps to protect those individuals, then they're becoming part and party to this violation.
Respectfully, that does not answer the question. Why not call for an external investigation? You can follow your own policies and procedures, but why not also call for an external investigation?
The person that would make that decision would be the board voting at it in toto. But what you don't do is you don't have one member of the board determined to violate the policy and make this matter public without following policy procedure first. So if somebody wants to have a vote by the board to waive its internal policy, then the board makes that vote, not one person.
I don't understand how that is waiving the internal policy. It's just asking for another investigation to ensure transparency.
Who makes that decision? Who makes that decision? The policy has been adopted by a vote of the board. If you want to change the policy that's been established by a vote of the board, then you have a vote of the board to change that policy. No one board member has the ability on their own to change board policy.
Absolutely right. Mr. Sykes is absolutely right, and I'm Janice Karakis. I'm District 1 School Board member, and I agree with the chairman that this meeting tonight, this special meeting, should in fact be canceled, because this item should be discussed, as our attorney just said, by the board at our regular meeting on August 18th, so the board, as a collective body and not just one individual board member, can go forward and decide what the best recourse would be. And as far as our policy, 2.17A4, that does apply to employees only. But our superintendent is not an employee of the Clay County School District. Our superintendent is an elected official. And the only person at this point who can decide what steps should be taken is Ms. McCannon, myself, and the other 3 fellow school board meetings. This is something that needs to come to our regular meeting. I'm glad she canceled it for tonight. Wednesday is traditionally a church night. 48 hours is very little notice to our community, our parents, our staff members. It's not right to our teachers. And most importantly, the backup information that I did submit for our August 18th meeting was not on the agenda for tonight. So this stuff is very important. It should all be there. And Mr. Van Zandt, as our attorney pointed out, is an elected official. He is an elected official, and so we need an outside individual to come in. We need the Department of Education or the Inspector General to come in and do a fair and unbiased investigation. That's what we need. And why wouldn't we want to have our district's name cleared?
Well, the
With an
problem
unbiased and an
that we have right now is we've
investigation.
taken this allegation, and certain persons have wanted to put it out in public without following internal procedures. And if you want to take and you want to have the board release this in violation of the policy, then you have to first ask the board to waive the policy to make the allegations public. That has not occurred. And by jumping the gun in releasing this, whoever did, we're going to find out who released this information in violation of the board policy, because they may have their own troubles by violating the board policy on their own.
I released this information, and it is not in violation of board policy because it affects our superintendent, who is, again, as I've said twice now, an elected official. He does not fall under board policy.
And in the bloodlust to get Mr. Van Zandt, we have injured innocent people, members that are the union, members are teachers, that are administrators and staff. And so this is concluded this time from our side, and we will follow the law and the procedure that's been established.
As
Thank
an
you very much.
elected board member, every one of the school board members have have an obligation. We have an obligation to do our due diligence. We are required, when we hear something, to follow through on it. We can't unhear it. We can't go back and turn the clock back and bury our head in the sand as if we didn't know this was going on. This is not for us as the board to investigate. It is not for our district, for an employee to investigate the superintendent. This is for an outside agency to come in and preserve the integrity of this investigation. And if there's nothing wrong, then let's find out. Let's clear our district's name.
Ms. Farragus, do you think it's a conflict of interest for Mr. Sykes to also be representing the superintendent's parents in their tax evasion lawsuit?
I do think that it possibly could be a conflict of interest for our school board attorney who represents the school board, who is now representing Mr. Van Zant Sr. and his wife in their tax evasion scandal, to be dealing with this issue with our superintendent. Yes, I do. Thank you.